In 1987, Oregon passed a law that set ripples across the country and set the stage for today's immigration headlines. That law made it illegal to use state resources to enforce federal immigration laws. And when it passed, Oregon became the first sanctuary state in the country.
Since then, other states have followed, using Oregon's law as a model. Now, as the Trump administration ramps up deportations, state and federal laws are clashing.
So how's this going to play out?
And what's the impact to Oregonians, especially those at the center of this latest immigration crackdown? Before we get into it, here are some numbers. Oregon is home to about 120,000 undocumented immigrants, and experts estimate there are between 60 and 70,000 people seeking asylum in the state. Asylum seekers are people fleeing conflict, violence, or persecution in their home country. The UN considers seeking asylum a fundamental human right, and it's legal in the US.
Now let's talk a little bit more about how Oregon became the first sanctuary state. And it had nothing to do with the Trump administration. The story began 10 years before the law actually passed. In 1977, Delmiro Trevino walked into a bar in Independence, Oregon, and was confronted and interrogated by police about his immigration status. This set the stage for a class action lawsuit, which brought this question to the Oregon Attorney General. What, if any jurisdiction, do state and local law enforcement officers have to enforce United States regulations regarding immigration and naturalization?
None, according to then Oregon Attorney General James Redden. This and other legal questions prompted by the case became the basis for the 1987 law, which passed unanimously in the Oregon legislature with bipartisan support.
It is a bill which will basically codify the current policy, and that policy is that state and local officials have no authority to enforce immigration laws.
Motion's adopted.
So what do Oregon sanctuary laws look like today?
Well, it's still against Oregon law for state and local law enforcement and public agencies to use their resources for immigration enforcement, except if federal immigration authorities have a signed warrant from a judge, which they usually don't.
But in 2021, we were actually able to strengthen our state sanctuary law.
Oregon's sanctuary laws have made the state a target of the Trump administration. The Trump administration has said that voters elected them to enforce federal immigration policies, including deporting thousands. They say U.S. policy is to, quote, achieve the total and efficient enforcement of those laws, including through lawful incentives and detention capabilities. The day President Trump was inaugurated, he signed an executive order stating that any sanctuary jurisdiction that seeks to interfere with federal law enforcement will lose access to federal funds. And Border Czar Tom Homan publicly promised more aggressive enforcement is going to come to cities and name-checked Portland.
No, not only that, I'm going to head to Portland. I'm going out there. They're not going to bully us or we're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities.
Even under threat, many elected leaders in Oregon are doubling down on the state's sanctuary laws.
I will not back down from a fight. I will uphold Oregon's sanctuary promise laws.
But even within the state, communities are debating whether there should be cooperation with the feds when it comes to immigration enforcement. In May, Curry County's Board of Commissioners proposed a resolution supporting cooperation with federal immigration officials. It was discussed, but not voted on.
This is what it seems like with this whole ICE cooperation thing. Is this going to require our local law enforcement to break the law? That I don't see a positive coming out of it.
I still look at our inability to be responsive to the challenge that we are faced with as a local community. With the opening of the borders that we've seen for the last few years, we do have challenges that we did not have previously.
Marion County has also filed a lawsuit against the state and the federal government, asking for clarity in how they should navigate the competing state and federal laws, setting up a showdown in court. Coos County also proposed and then rejected a proclamation to cooperate with ICE.
Meanwhile, immigration enforcement has increased in places previously thought to be off limits. Federal guidelines that long protected sensitive places, churches, schools, courtrooms, hospitals, clinics. The Trump administration recently rescinded that policy.
Now, a little background on ICE.
March 1st, 2003. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is founded within the Department of Homeland Security, which opened its doors the same day to unify our national security efforts in the wake of the nation's deadliest terror attacks.
and its stated mission is to protect America through criminal investigations and enforcing immigration laws to preserve national security and public safety. ICE has offices in Portland, Bend, Medford, and Eugene. During the first Trump administration, a couple local jails in Oregon would hold immigrants as part of contracts with ICE. Those contracts were controversial and have since ended. But there are no official immigration detention centers in Oregon. The nearest one is in Tacoma, Washington. And that facility is huge. It can house as many as 1,500 detainees. It's one of the biggest in the US, and the majority of these folks, they're likely to be deported.
Okay, so what is ICE actually doing here? Here's a few things we've seen so far.
Families were detained and held at the US-Canada border.
Asylum seekers have been arrested outside of immigration court in Portland.
Ag workers were detained on their way to work.
A father was arrested outside of his kid's preschool.
Hello, sir.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you so much.
You mind if I grab your ID from you? Go ahead and roll your window all the way down.
Why? What's going on?
Go ahead and roll your window all the way down.
I have a baby in the car.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything with the baby. Just roll your window all the way down. Just go ahead and roll your window down. You're in the window. Roll it down. Roll your window all the way down for me, please.
Yeah.
Do you have your ID on you? Police.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, can I see your ID?
Yeah, that's funny.
Where are you heading?
Daycare.
I'm sorry?
Daycare.
Okay.
Hell, hold on. I'm getting out. I'm getting out.
Well, you should have done it already. I told you 3 times. Unbuckle your seatbelt. Step out of the car.
You don't understand.
Step out of the car.
Okay.
Because
I'm Iranian.
Yes,
I'm Iranian.
I understand.
That's why they are doing this. I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm an Iranian.
And some Oregonians have even chosen to leave the country on their own rather than face immigration detention.
No quiero averiguar si me van a meter un centro de detención o si voy
I don't want to find out if they're going to put me in a detention center or if I'm going to live so many more years here and be told, you know what? No, you have to go back to your country. No, it's a waste of time.
And these are just a few examples. Immigration enforcement tactics have been changing rapidly and will likely continue to grow and evolve as ICE officials try and meet increasing quotas.
Oregon law enforcement agencies have already seen a 265% increase in requests for help from federal immigration officials.
And after the passage of Trump's Big Beautiful Bill puts more than $100 billion towards increased immigration enforcement, that will likely be used to target sanctuary cities.
All of this has had a chilling effect in communities. Asylum seekers are afraid to show up to their immigration hearings. More than 7,000 international students in Oregon are facing uncertainty about their student visas. Latino Fest in Madras, Juneteenth in Bend, and Latinx Fiesta Celebracion were all canceled this summer. The organizers cited concerns of participants being detained or deported by the Trump administration.
Inconsistent immigration enforcement directives and tactics have also caused fear and confusion in the agricultural industry, and farms are suffering.
What's going on right now is that there's just a sense of fear and dread amongst our immigrant workforce that, someone's coming for them. And that fear is causing people not to move and to hunker down.
Some workers told this reporter they're taking the risk anyway. They need to pay rent and buy food. On top of that, there's a lot more cherry crop this year. Farmers are still catching up, and fruit could be left rotting on the field.
Since Trump took office, ongoing protests have taken place across Oregon, with many pushing back against the administration's increased immigration enforcement. And lawmakers, officials, and immigrant rights groups are also taking legal action.
Oregon universities have filed lawsuits in an effort to protect international students.
And elected leaders in Washington County recently joined together to push back against the climate of fear created by immigration enforcement.
Today we're gathered here to say ICE has no place in our neighborhoods.
Immigration enforcement in Oregon boils down to a conflict between states' rights and federal laws. And compared to most other states, Oregon is in a relatively strong position because of our long sanctuary history. But the federal government still has a lot of power.
There's a lot of power, raw power that they have. But Oregon's structures and systems to protect its community are in place, and they can be strengthened. They can be expanded.
One last wrinkle in this story concerns the role of federal courts. They've been tasked with resolving this tension between states' rights and federal law. In some cases, judges are finding the government has gone too far. That was illustrated during a recent hearing in Portland over the detention of an asylum seeker. Oregon Judge Amy Baggio said,
"The government here failed to follow its own rules. They arrested first, they sought to justify later, and then they changed the alleged basis for the detention. There is a right way to do this, and there is a wrong way to do this. My assessment is that the government went about its arrest in the wrong way.
To learn more and follow all of our immigration reporting, go to opb.org.